Abandoned and disabled, a tiny kitten lay trembling, ready to give up on life. No one believed it would survive until a German shepherd stepped forward. What happened next shocked everyone, because this dog didn't just comfort the kitten. He gave it a reason to live again. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. On the edge of a busy street, hidden in the shadow of a dumpster, lay a tiny kitten no bigger than a hand. Its fur was patchy, its body frail, and two weak back legs dragged helplessly behind it. Every breath sounded like a battle it was losing. The world had already been cruel. Abandoned at birth, the kitten had learned pain before it had ever felt comfort. Its body trembled from hunger, but more than that, from despair. Strangers passed by without noticing, while the little one lowered its head, as if surrendering to a fate it could not escape. For hours it lay there, eyes half closed, waiting for the inevitable. To anyone watching, it seemed like the kitten had given up on life. Yet, though its body was broken, its tiny heart still beat, a faint signal of hope, waiting for someone to hear. It was early morning when two volunteers from the local animal shelter made their rounds through the neighborhood. They were searching for strays, but what they found under the dumpster stopped them in their tracks. A tiny kitten, motionless except for the faint rise and fall of its chest, lay there as if waiting for life to end. One volunteer carefully scooped the fragile creature into her hands. The kitten let out a faint, broken meow, its eyes pleading for help. Its legs hung limp, useless, dragging against her sleeve. The sight brought tears to her eyes. "We have to hurry," she whispered, rushing it toward their van. At the shelter, the team worked quickly. Warm blankets, drops of milk, and gentle strokes across its tiny head. Still, the truth was hard to face. This kitten's odds of survival were slim. Yet, despite its weakness, when they looked into its wide, watery eyes, they saw something remarkable, a spark that refused to go out. Days passed at the shelter, and though the kitten grew a little stronger, its spirit remained fragile. It ate only when coaxed, cried often at night, and lay still as if the world had already forgotten it. The staff feared that despite their best efforts, the little one was slowly giving up. Then one morning, a new sound filled the shelter, deep paws against the tile floor. In walked Duke, a massive German shepherd, recently brought in for temporary care. His presence was commanding, yet his eyes were kind, filled with a calm strength that made even the volunteers feel reassured. When Duke approached the kitten's cage, everyone grew tense. The kitten hissed, arching its tiny back, its frail body trembling in fear. The staff quickly reached out, ready to intervene, but Duke didn't lunge or bark. Instead, he tilted his head, watching curiously, as though sensing the pain behind those wide eyes. The room fell silent as the giant dog lowered himself to the floor, his nose just inches from the kitten. It was the beginning of a moment no one could have predicted, two broken souls on the verge of meeting in a way that would change them both. The volunteers held their breath, unsure of what would happen next. The kitten, fragile and scared, let out another faint hiss before collapsing back onto the blanket. Duke, however, didn't move with aggression. Instead, he slowly stretched out his paw and lay it gently on the floor, lowering his massive frame until he was eye level with the trembling kitten. A soft whimper escaped Duke's throat, not of threat, but of compassion. He extended his tongue and licked the kitten's tiny head with surprising gentleness. The room went silent. The kitten stiffened at first, eyes wide, but then something remarkable happened. It stopped crying. Its trembling eased, and for the first time since arriving at the shelter, the little one nestled against something warm without fear. The staff exchanged stunned glances. No therapy, no medicine, no amount of coaxing had calmed the kitten this way. Yet this dog, who had only just met it, had managed to reach into its fragile heart. From that moment, the barrier between them began to break. It was clear now, Duke wasn't just curious. He had chosen to be the kitten's protector, and the kitten, once ready to give up, had finally found a reason to hold on. From that day on, Duke refused to leave the kitten's side. Whenever the staff placed food near the tiny bowl, the kitten would turn its head away, too weak or too disheartened to eat. But then Duke would nudge the dish closer with his nose, giving a gentle bark as if encouraging, "Try." Slowly the kitten began to respond, nibbling in small bites while Duke watched proudly. During physical therapy, when volunteers tried to help the kitten stretch its weak legs, Duke would lie down nearby, his calm presence keeping the little one from panicking. If the kitten meowed in pain, Duke would lower his head beside it, letting it rest against his fur until the trembling stopped. Days turned into weeks, and the transformation was undeniable. The kitten no longer cried through the night. Instead, it purred softly, pressed against Duke's chest as the big dog kept guard. Where there had once been despair, now there was hope, because a guardian had stepped in, and together, they were healing. One afternoon, the staff placed the kitten into a tiny custom wheelchair made from lightweight metal and soft straps. It had been prepared for weeks, but no one was sure if the fragile kitten had the strength or the will to use it. The room was quiet, every eye watching closely as the little one trembled in place. Duke stood nearby, tail wagging, head tilted with expectation. He gave a low bark, almost like encouragement, then nudged the kitten gently forward with his nose. At first, the wheels squeaked awkwardly, and the kitten stumbled, collapsing onto the floor. Gasps filled the room. But Duke didn't give up. He circled the kitten, barking softly, urging it to try again. With shaky determination, the kitten pushed once more. The wheels rolled forward an inch, then another. A pause, then a small step. Then suddenly, against all odds, the kitten was moving. Cheers erupted, tears streaming down volunteers' faces as they clapped and cried. The kitten's eyes brightened, its tiny chest rising with newfound strength. For the first time, it wasn't just surviving, it was living. And right there, beside it, Duke walked proudly, the loyal friend who had given it the courage to take its first steps. News of the unlikely duo spread quickly beyond the shelter walls. A volunteer had recorded the moment the disabled kitten took its first steps beside Duke, and within hours, the video went viral. Millions watched as a fragile kitten found courage through the love of a dog, and hearts melted across the world. Soon, people began visiting the shelter just to catch a glimpse of them. Children pressed their faces to the glass, watching Duke patiently guide his tiny friend, while adults wiped away tears. Donations poured in, messages of love and support flooding the shelter's inbox. The story wasn't just about an animal rescue anymore. It had become a symbol of hope. The staff marveled at how the once hopeless kitten had become an inspiration. "They saved each other," one volunteer whispered, watching the pair curled up together. Duke had given the kitten strength, and in return, the kitten had given Duke a new purpose. Their bond had become a reminder that love can heal even the deepest wounds. It wasn't long before families began asking if they could adopt Duke and the kitten, but the shelter knew they couldn't be separated. Their bond was too deep, their healing too intertwined. Finally, a kind-hearted couple stepped forward, promising to give both a home filled with love and patience. When adoption day arrived, the entire shelter gathered to say goodbye. Duke trotted proudly beside his tiny companion, the kitten perched in its small wheelchair, but moving with determination. Volunteers clapped and cried, some kneeling down for one last hug. "Take care of each other," one whispered, her voice breaking. The couple welcomed them into a cozy home with wide spaces for Duke and quiet corners for the kitten. That night, the two curled up together on a soft rug, just as they had at the shelter. For the first time in a long while, the kitten purred contentedly, safe in the knowledge that it had found not only a family, but forever,